Welcome back and happy Monday. I am so excited to see you today. I hope that you are ready. We are going to be starting something new today. We are going to be talking about measuring things. We're going to learn how to measure how long things are, and we're also going to learn how to measure how tall things are. We're going to be using cubes and paper clips to do this. So you should still have a cube in your bag. You're going to need that today. You will have gotten it earlier in the year, so you might have to look for it a little bit. You need a little cube. If you need to pause the video to go find that, that's fine. And your paper clip is attached to some papers holding them together. Do not lose those papers. You need those, so make sure that they stay safe, but just take the paper clip with you. So those are the things you're going to need. We're going to learn how to measure things and how to measure them accurately. When we measure, we have to be precise. Can you say that word with me? Precise. Being precise means that we are being accurate in our measurement, and we are being very careful that what we write down is exactly what we measured. We have to be precise. So that's going to be one of the words that we're going to really hold on to and make sure that we're being accurate and precise and using it correctly. So, are you ready to jump in? Our goal today, I can measure using a cube. Just like when we count, we need to make sure that we think about what number to start with. What number do we start with? What number do we use to tell that we have not counted anything? So, if I have nothing, what is that number? You're right, it's 0. We say 0 to mean nothing has been counted. Remember, the number 0 means I have none of it. So right now, in my hands, I have 0 jelly beans. Do I have any jelly beans in my hand? No. What about if I said I have 0 kittens in my hand? Do I have any kittens? No. So it is just holding the place where we want nothing to be. Good job, guys. Now we're going to create some cubes so that we can look at how long our 5 cubes would need to be. So let's put our cube up there. How many cubes are there? 1. You're right. What if we add 1 more? How many cubes will there be? Let's find out. Will you count those cubes with me? 1, 2. There are 2 cubes now. When you copy a unit over and over, in this case our cube, with no gaps or overlaps, remember a gap is when we have space between our cubes, and an overlap is when it's on top of our cubes. This is called iterating the unit. Iterating is copying the unit. Remember this poster with the word iterate? Remember, we're trying to copy the same size so that it is the same amount. It's the same unit. So we're going to keep working on that even though we're measuring instead of creating bar models. Okay, let's see what happens when we add a few more cubes. How many cubes are there now? Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 cubes. Let's count. This stick of cubes is 5 cubes long. We're going to label this like we would a bar model. Remember, we have to start with 0 because we have no cubes at that point. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Does this look familiar? This is very similar to how we label a bar model. Good job. So, the length of the cube stick is 5 cubes. Can you say that with me? The length of the cube stick is 5 cubes. Now we're going to say this. We iterated the unit cube 5 times. This is just another way of saying that it is 5 cubes. Let's say it together. We iterated or copied the unit cube 5 times. Okay, guys, here is my hand. So, I have a question. This is my cube stick. How many cubes are on here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 5 cubes. Do you think my hand is going to be bigger or smaller than this cube stick of 5? Okay, let's see if you're right. So I'm going to take this stick and put it right next to my hand. I have to make sure that I line it up with my wrist so that it's at the bottom. Is it lined up with my wrist? My wrist is right here. It is. Good job. Which one is longer, my hand or the cube stick? My hand, you're correct. Which one is shorter? Which one has less? The cube stick. Good job. Are they the same length? No. I would need to add more cubes to make it as big as my hand. Do you think this cube stick would be bigger or smaller than your hand? You can always pause the video if you want to test it out. Put your hand next to the cube stick. Now you're going to use your cube to help you iterate and measure your hand. Some of us might not be able to easily put some cubes together to make it as long as our hand. So this is what I'm going to have you do. Are you ready? You'll get a piece of paper. Any piece of paper will do. And we are going to trace our hand like this. I'm going to start at the bottom with my wrist. I'm going to push the pencil into my thumb and trace each finger out. Some of you may have made little turkeys before using this method, but you're just going to trace your hand and all the way back down to your wrist. Do you see how I went around each finger? And then I'm going to connect the bottom down here. So I've traced my hand. Now I'm going to use the cube I have. I'm going to take one of them. I'm going to start at my wrist and iterate the cubes until I get up to the top of my tallest finger. For Mrs. Me, that's my finger right here. Maybe yours is going to be a different finger, but you're going to iterate it to the top finger. So I'm going to start at my wrist. And luckily yours won't erase because you'll have done it in pencil. But Mrs. Me's does erase because it's on the whiteboard. So I made one cube. Is one cube gotten me to the top of my finger? No. So I'm going to make sure to put the cube right next to it on that line so that I have no gaps, because I cannot have gaps while measuring. This is part of being very precise. So I have 2 cubes now. That line was not very easy to see. Am I there yet? No. So Mrs. Me's going to keep going. I'm going to put that right next to it, being very precise, no gaps. And I'm also not going to draw it on top of the other one because that would be an overlap. So making sure to trace all my sides. And I would keep going until I get all the way to the top of my hand. Okay guys, I went through and iterated my cube, copied to make it the exact same size from the bottom of my wrist all the way to the tip of my tallest finger. So let's see how many cubes it would take for Mrs. Me to measure her hand with no gaps, no spaces in between, and no overlaps where they're coming on top of each other. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Mrs. Me would need 8 units. So we're going to write 8 units. Good job. Okay, now you're going to need that paper clip I told you about. So this is my paper clip. We are going to do the same thing. We are going to measure to the tallest part of our finger from the wrist. So these are going to be harder to iterate. So I'm going to line it up at the bottom. And then at the top of my paper clip, I'm going to draw a line. Then I'll move my paper clip up, making sure it's on that line, drawing again. Then I'll do it again. Am I at the top of my finger yet? No, so I need to make sure to put another one on there. But now it's too tall. So, we'll talk about what we'll do next. How many paper clips was it? Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4 is too much, so maybe 3 and a little bit. It's closer to 3 than it is 4, so I'm going to say 3 paper clips. Why do you think it took us 8 units, 8 cubes, but only 3 paper clips? You're right. The 8 units, these are a smaller unit. If I look at my cube next to my paper clip is much taller than my cube. So it doesn't take as many paper clips to be the same size as the cube. So we have to make sure that that's why it's very important to make sure that we're iterating the same size, because we need to be able to be accurate and precise. Our cubes need to all be the same size, and our paper clips needed to all be the same size. But they were both a good way to measure. We also have to make sure to specify, like I did, what we're using to measure. Otherwise, we'll never know if we did it correctly. So I made sure to say 8 units or 3 paper clips, because it makes a difference on how long I think something is or how tall. Good job, guys. Okay, so now you're going to get this paper out. You're going to know it's the correct one when you see Lesson 1 worksheet. You'll see all these different pictures on it, like an iPad, a book, a teddy bear. You're going to find your paper that looks like this. You're going to measure these things using your cubes. So I would actually go and find a pencil. If I'm doing the first one, I would find a pencil and I would use my cube to measure it from the very tip to the eraser. So making sure that I measure the whole thing, doing my best to be precise. So if I measured it and found that my pencil was 9 cubes long, I would write 9 on my paper because cubes is already there. So I'd write 9 right there next to the pencil. Then I would find a book, a real book. It could be any book I want it to be, but it needs to be a book. If you don't have a book, you can always use one of your decodables. So if I used my cube and measured, being precise with no gaps and no overlaps, then I found that it was 5 cubes tall. I would write 5 on that line. If you have any questions, make sure to reach out to your teacher and they would be happy to help you. You guys did awesome. I hope that you have fun trying to measure these things with your cubes and do your best work. Great job, guys.